start with, should we start with the Pam?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So this is a watch that just recently came in. I snagged it from the vault to the chagrin of Jason and Josh, who are actually going to feature it on their show later this week, so I beat them to the punch. So this Panerai here, green dial, titanium case, is actually a Harrods edition that was recently launched. So you've got the primarily all brush finish throughout the case and bracelet, except for the high polished titanium bezel. And this particular watch was done in an example of 100 pieces for Harrods.
Yes. And you can see that it's the signature Harrods green that you'll recognize, well, first of all, from the actual store in London if you've been there, but you'll also notice that it bears a striking similarity to the green featured on the thematically similar Tudor Harrods limited edition, which brings us to, I believe, the underlying theme of this particular piece of product placement on the show. I think we have a broader message other than to spread the word about the 100-piece titanium 693.
Exactly. And, that message is that, there are many different editions that are now being done for retailers. And, I don't want to say that this is a new concept because, let's face it, the brands have always done limited editions for retailers in different markets. But I think what's really important is that it's really now starting to get major press, and that, market blasts are going out, writers are starting to pick it up, and these particular small batch editions for retailers, they used to just be a slightly different take on a pre-existing watch, where I really think that the current version of the watch was more often than not better than what the limited edition was. So maybe it was a black dial that they switched to a black dial with yellow subdials, that kind of thing.
And a lot of times the branding was indiscreet. Like you would have the retailer's name or logo on the dial, and it would pretty much ruin it unless you were the family that owned the jeweler, or you were like a best client getting the watch for free as a thank you.
Exactly. And they would do it on the case back, and what I think is special about this is that the watch happens to be awesome, and that, it's an example of a watch that was built for really Panerai collectors to then only be purchased from a place. So it was built with the collectors in mind, not necessarily for the specific retailer. And, this is similar to the Altavia that was done for the UAE. I don't know if it was only sold through Sudiki and Sons or if it was for everybody, but they did an Altavia in 100 pieces with almost like a caramel color bezel and colored strap, which happens to have done extraordinarily well. Both watches are actually selling for above the retail price, and again, that's another watch that got great press in the watch space.
And it's such a success that this isn't even the only Panerai Harrods limited edition. There is also the blue full Arabic numeral dial 745. So this is not, let me just be clear, this is not even the only Harrods Panerai. There are two editions of 100, both basically the same watch in titanium with the dial that you recall from the PAM 359. This one has the green, the other one has the blue. I actually prefer this one. I think this is a better look. I also appreciate the availability of this dial on a non-bronzo. We saw a little bit of this last year with the 3 boutique editions with the steel and titanium cases and the green dial. I want to try to get the Harrods inscription on the case back here, because this is the only overt branding. That is the only sign to the outside world that this is a Harrods special edition. This is the inverse of what a retailer edition would have looked like back in the 2000s, when it was absolutely everywhere and actually ruined the watch.
Yeah, and there was a comment about the bracelet, and it actually comes with an extra strap, and I want to say a deployment buckle. I don't know if it's a deployment or tang, but it comes with an extra couple straps as well, really to change up the bracelet and change the look.
The straps are also color keyed to the dial, and the same is true of the blue dialed 745. It comes with blue straps.
And we have a question from B. Nielsen. How similar is the green to the green of the PAM 911? I don't really think it's that similar. This is almost a darker, more hunter green. The PAM 911, it's like a brighter Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles green.
I've seen them both. I have to be honest, I would have to see them both side by side to make the call.
Yeah.
I saw the 911 in a dimly lit room. By the way, the PAM 911 was the unofficial Angelo Bonatti sign-off, if you're wondering what that was. It was essentially a limited edition for people who were close with the only CEO Panerai has ever known under Richemont since 1997, Angelo Bonatti. So his departure and the 911 go hand in hand. But until we actually have the watches side by side, I'm just going to say they're similar. I can't definitively say they're different. Brian seems to think there's a real distinction and a real contrast, so I'm going to go with that. I think he's probably seen more of the two than I have.
Yeah. So, Francisco, thank you. It is deployant, not deployment.
Yes.
You know, I've only probably been saying it wrong my entire life, but I appreciate the feedback.
Deployant. Yeah, it's the lingua franca of watchmaking. Who would have thought it was French?
But moving right along. So, this is another watch that was just that just came in, and as I'm rummaging around the drawers to sort of see what the new arrivals are, this really caught my eye. I'm going to have Tim here show it. It's a Glashütte piece that actually just hit the website. And it is it's a Senator Observer?
Yeah, it's a Senator
Observer Perpetual.
Perpetual calendar.
Correct, in 39 millimeters. You've got the aperture there for day of the week, date, month, moon phase, as well as a big date window. What really caught my eye, so is that's going to be the indication for the leap year.
Yes.
Right there below Glashütte Geneva. And what I really liked about the watch was I thought that it was well proportioned to the size of the case. I actually like the overall layout. I think it's somewhat simple. I love the big double date window. What's the term for how the discs there curve into one another?
I think that you would just say they're superimposed.
Superimposed, which is similar to the way FP Journe does it. I think it's a very rich way of doing it. And for some reason, I'm not a big fan of leap year indications when they're sort of big and very much take up a lot of space on the dial. So I really like how small and out of the way that it is, because you pretty much don't really need to know what cycle it is until it's the final leap year. Price point wise, we have the watch listed on our website for $12,950, which I just think comes complete with box and papers, and I just think that for bang for the buck, it's hard to beat that in a Glashütte in-house perpetual calendar, pilot style. I love the all brush finish. I think it's an unassuming watch that that's got a major engine in it, and it's the kind of watch that you can pop that bracelet off, put a brown calfskin strap on it, and completely change the look.
We're doing our best to get that display case back, guys. It is actually worth looking at. This is the Geo Caliber 3950. It's the Caliber 39 tractor base, automatic winding, 40-hour power reserve, 4 Hertz beat rate. Nicely executed. You can't quite see. I'm trying my best, guys, but there's a black polished swan's neck fine adjustment mechanism, a 3/4 style bridge, and then a skeletonized Glashütte stripe winding mass. This is a handsome watch and a Senator Navigator, 39 millimeters in stainless steel and discreetly sized with a matte black dial. This is a no-nonsense sports watch that nevertheless is equally welcome in dress attire thanks to the vaguely vintage profile of the pot-bellied case. It's an evocative little thing, and you almost wish this is what Georges Kern were doing with the current flight of Breitling pilot-style watches. Something that is quirky, has personality, and yet is so versatile and timeless, it's going to look just as good in 10 years. This is not a brand new model. This dates back to the 2000s, and yet it looks as fresh as anything coming out of Germany today. 39 millimeters is a good size for a pilot-style watch, and I wish we would see more of this from around the industry. I'll also mention that the watch has an incredibly handsome aperture display for the perpetual calendar. I prefer this so immeasurably to radial registers because you can actually read the calendar.
Yeah, exactly, and I love I love the small nature of the watch. I just think it fits incredibly comfortably on the wrist. It's it's unassuming, and look how awesome that is. Again, exactly as you said, it's a bit of a quirky watch, and it's going to take the right person to buy it. But I just think it's incredibly cool, very wearable. And it's kind of that beater perpetual almost.
And the bracelet adds a lot of value. Let's be honest, guys. If you were to order that bracelet as a standalone accessory for a 10 to 12-year-old Geo, you would be looking. I can't imagine you'd get that bracelet for less than 4 figures. If you wanted to order that thing as an accessory.
No, definitely not.
So to buy the watch on the bracelet offers a lot of value. Plus, down the road, you don't have the strap replacement costs. And I would just say that bracelets are more versatile than they used to be. Maybe they used to have a little bit of a sports watch brutality about them. But after 30-plus years of Rolex being considered an office watch, I think we can definitively say bracelets are welcome in any attire, even when they're steel, even when they're satin finished.
Yeah.